start my leisure activity, and I'm looking forward to it.
ESPN now has 96.7 million subscribers. This represents 86% of U.S. households. Issues with ESPN past and present. I think it's first important to think about in what ways women and women in sports have changed, socially, physically, and culturally. Historical perspective is important because women weren't allowed to participate in sports. Traditionally, as early as in Victorian times, it was thought of that women were too delicate to participate. Eventually, over time, the sports activities women were allowed to participate in grew, and sports became socially acceptable. Currently, since culturally we think of the most popular sports as being male activities, and although there are some female coverage of sporting activities on ESPN, women don't traditionally watch it all day or for leisure. ESPN still does not aim, target, or tailor any of its programming towards women viewers. And I think this sends the wrong message. Also, with the birth of technology historically, socially and culturally, we've carried the same ideas and gender biases over. This is apparent when you look at television and the media's depiction of men and women's interactions. This perpetuates and reinforces. Traditionally, we think of watching the game or watching a network like ESPN for leisure as being associated with a male activity. Currently, according to a 2003 study done by the Journal of Sports and Social Issues, it showed that sports news and ESPN Sports Center, 96.7% of its airtime was dedicated to men's sports, which is a huge discrepancy. I think the problem is then by women's sports not being shown, it makes it seem as if it's unimportant. The fact that they don't tailor their programming to women at all, they're just kind of left out of the demographic.
I think that the topic that I picked was interesting to see, but it was also a challenge because it was hard to find things like statistics about like the history and things like that. But besides that, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. I do notice a lack of female inclusion in any of the programming, so that's something interesting to note.
Historical perspective, only 3% of college basketball games shown during 1996 through 1997 were women games. Only 5% of the airtime involved in ESPN SportsCenter and CNN Sports Tonight was devoted to women, which is kind of sad. Also, this is from the reading from class. It talks about the most major or popular sporting activities, which are the ones that receive the most media coverage. They all serve to highlight men's dominance over women. They're all having to do with extremes of the male body, what they can do, how strong they are, how much they can push themselves. Although women may have enjoyed the increase in coverage of the media over the recent years, it may serve to emphasize the natural differences among men and women. Why television? TV is considered to be an at-home leisure activity. According to an online poll taken by Harris Interactive, Americans' favorite leisure activities are reading, TV watching, spending time with friends and family. Although TV watching has dropped from 21% to 18% since 2004, while computer activities has risen from 7 to 9%. Looking at media outlets is yet still very interesting.
Thinking now of the messages that they're sending to people just by by them not including women in their sports coverage or just period targeting to women viewers. It's just pretty much disrespectful.
According to a 2003 study done by the Journal of Sports and Social Issues, 40% of all professional athletes are women, but yet only 6 to 8% of media coverage is focused on women.
It kind of feels the same as if I were to, look through, a high fashion magazine, how, there would be a lack of, people that look like me. It's the same thing. If I turn on this huge network covering sports, what if I like sports, and by them not covering it, it just sends the wrong message to people.
A recent controversy surrounding this activity, I think a big one has to do with people watching too much TV. It may lead to people living sedentary lifestyles, which could lead to things like obesity, which is definitely on the rise in our country. This slide has to do with changes. There have been historical changes, definitely, since the growth of technology, capitalism, and feminism. And though women are able to participate in sports and sporting events, they have been completely left out of media coverage, which perpetuates the idea of women in sports and women watching sports as being unimportant or less than men. This applies to our class because this discrimination relates to women in leisure, because it's both important and interesting to look further into the leisure choices of women and women in sports. Sports is a hugely popular leisure activity, which millions of people use as a tool. For example, it's those who make money off the sporting industry, it's those who do sports for recreational purposes, and it's those that do it for expression purposes and exercising purposes, things of that nature. I think the media is important to look at. I wanted to cover this particular topic because I think the class reading said it well, in that the mass media have become one of the most popular institutional forces for shaping the attitudes and values of American culture. It's easy to look at the media and see a reflection of people's thoughts.
I thought this would be a fun thing to do, mostly because ESPN is such a huge network, and I have a boyfriend who watches it all the time, and I can't stand it, not for more than 5 minutes. So I thought that maybe I might spend some time trying to gain an appreciation for it. So that's probably what I want to get out of it.
This activity was challenging for me because I had to drop my criticism for ESPN and also my assumptions about what it was and how it was, and simply keep an open mind. It was also a challenge trying to find research on past uses. During ESPN, I felt very tuned in. I wanted to pay as much attention as possible. I was sitting with some friends, and I was just kind of taking in the moment, trying to listen to my friends' feedback, but at the same time pay attention to what ESPN was covering and see if I could point out any, discrimination or things of that nature on the network. Lessons. I think there's definitely inequalities that exist in the programming. Watching networks like ESPN are always ways we can view these inequalities in the media. And although there are problems that exist, the network is a lot more entertaining than I thought. I had a good time doing it, and I've grown somewhat of an appreciation for it. And these are my sources.